I want to kill all of them. But Daniel continued, and he said, but, when there is a but in your life, it's wonderful. When you are facing some situations, and then it's just problem, then somebody said, but, then you know there is a solution coming. So that king was there, and then he heard the word but, so his ear went up. And he said, there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the later days. And click, you, O king, were watching. Now I'm telling you the dream. You were watching, and behold, a great image. To this point, that king will remember. He said, you saw, past tense, you saw a great image. This image head was of fine gold, its chest and arm of silver, its belly and thigh with bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. And the king was just shaking his head. Yeah. And watch, while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay, and broke them in pieces. If you had a dream, and somebody tell it to you till this point, will you recall that? Yes. The king recalled the dream, and he knows that what this guy is saying was exactly what he was seeing in the night. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth, he said. The whole earth. Well, maybe you are wondering, friend, how this strong and strange dream is so important for us to talk about this evening, to make flyers like this and distribute wherever we have to invite you about a dream which was revealed 2,500 years ago. What does that have to do with you today? It's not something important we could do than to talk to you about a dream which somebody had 2,500 years ago. Well, I do believe, in fact, I know exactly, I am sure that dream reveals the whole history of earth and the future of earth. And the present time we are living in is included in that dream. That will make a big difference. That's what convinced me to have hope. That's what convinced me to know that it's nearer than I am thinking. Well, King Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel found themselves looking down through the century for all time to come. And this young guy started to tell the king what that could mean, the whole dream. The dream we are talking about is not known only in Christian setting. It is known by great historians. So what we are doing this evening is not just flourishing you through religious meetings or whatever to win you to be part of a church. This is not what we are doing. We are not in such businesses. What we are doing this evening is pure history plus future. It's pure history plus future. Because this dream we are talking about, you can see it in all the great books. You can go to the library in Vienna here. You can go everywhere. You will find this dream by people who are not Christians. But this dream, it is in the Bible. And Daniel said, this is the interpretation. King, you are this head of gold. Well, Babylon, the head. Babylon was a nation of pure gold. A nation where gold. And when the king heard that word, you are the head of gold, he recalled all what he himself was saying before by saying, oh, my kingdom may last forever. That was his wish always. And when somebody says you are the head, that means you are the leading one. So he was thinking this will be. And he has a great city that time already. 606 before Jesus Christ, the city of Babylon was modern, much more modern than we have in Vienna today. For those of you who study, you hear the word ziggurat. The ziggurat is still existing. In excavations, they saw those great houses. We are talking about civilizations which made Sphinx and all these great things which we today could not achieve. This is history. But Daniel continued and said to him, there is after you something else coming. And courageously standing in front of that king who was looking for, being there for eternity, not leaving the power, he has a diplomacy and he find a way to tell him the truth. He said, but after you shall arise another kingdom, but he said, inferior to yours. Everybody like that. Everybody like that. That all the others are inferior to him. For the kings, especially, they love that. Well, what Daniel said that night, generation later, it really happened. That king was dead. His son came to the power. He was dead. His grandson came to the power. On October 539, go to the library, you can see these dates. The grandson of that king was having a feast. And while he was having a feast, he made something stupid. He took some of the vessels his grandfather took from God's house and started drinking in it. And while he was drinking in these vessels, something happened to him. He took his wife, he took the concubines, and they drank from all these holy vessels. They drank wine and they praised their gods of gold, of silver, of bronze, of iron, wood and stone and everything they could have. They were praising them using something which is holy for God, who said, I know the future. That God who pretended knowing the future said, I am holy, don't mess with me. So they took these things and they were drinking and they were making a party out of it. Well, they were still in that party. That story is interesting. You can read it in Daniel chapter 5. In the midst of that party, a bloodless hand just appeared and began to write something on the wall. They can see only the letters and they could not understand what is there. So they were all in panic, and the king, they said his knees were shaking. And he was looking for answer. And he did the same thing like his grandfather did. He called astrologers, he called people to interpret to him the dream. None of them could interpret it. But there was some lady, an old lady, who was the wife of the grandfather, who knew about the young man, Daniel, who is now old. He said, call that old man. When he was young, he was the only one who saved the astrologers of this country from the lie. Call him, he can reveal it to you. And Daniel came in and could read that hand and said, it is written, mene mene tekel, over sin. God has known about your kingdom and finished it. You king, your kingdom, and everything you have has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Remember, the king was having his dreams long time ago, 606 before Jesus Christ. When the history, which is recorded in history books, tells us that it was also in the night that messengers came with news that the city has been taken by these two small kingdoms which joined together, went through a river of Euphrates, divided it through, and they went through these canals and they went through the gates, and in the same night that kingdom was gone. Friends, I want to recommend something to you this evening. This book, the Bible. This is not just a book. What is in this book? It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's not just a book like any other book. It predicts the rise and the fall of everything. God's word is reliable. God's word foretells the future. Are you looking for knowing the future? Come to that book. The kingdom represented the chest, the arm of silver, will not rule also forever. Daniel continued and said, what will happen? And he said to them, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth, will come. And that king Nebuchadnezzar was looking to this young boy. Many of us know this story. His name is still existing. We are giving to our children Alexander. Alexander is coming from the Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was young, really young. At the age of 23, he conquered the world which was existing in the time which was a record time. And he was known everywhere. Everybody talk about him. There is historian, Arian, one of very great historian, who said this about him. I am persuaded there was no nation, city, nor people where his name did not reach. There seems to have been same divine hand presiding over his work and action. Even today, the name of Alexander the Great is still popular. His story is still popular. God told it before Alexander was the Great. His grandfathers were born. God said it ahead. Why don't you trust that book? Why should I trust somebody who can read my palms just to tell me about tomorrow? And why should I trust somebody who can tell me the 2,500 years ahead what will happen without reading my palms? Much of the armors of his army, the Greek army, was made after brass. And they were described as men of bronze. And they were sunk. But we know he will also not last in that dream. The dream said, another will come. There will be a fourth empire. And now for you who knows a little bit about history, after the Greek Empire, which empire came? Which empire came? Roman Empire was ruling. That's true. And he said, and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as Aaron. And like Aaron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Well, you said it right. The Caesars came. The Roman, the emperors, and they were ruling. And they were the one, in fact, ruling longer than all the others. And the Romans, they were known for the metals they use. Who of you watched already once Asterix and Obelix? Which metals do they use? Which metals they use to make the armors? Iron. It's iron. Well, the Bible said everything one after the other. One after the other. On June 22nd, in year 168 before Christ, all the battle of Pydna perished in the empire of Alexander the Great, 145 years after his death. That was the end of Greece. That time, the Great Empire. This, you can read it in a book called The History of Monsense of Rome. Everything we are talking today, if you are still doubting to read it here, you can go for history to a library. We have a God who knows the story, and he knows the history. Well, he said that kingdom will also be away. He said after the Roman, there will be another thing which will come. And they will not adhere together, just as iron does not mix with clay. Well, Rome was a ruthless nation, ruling with rods and iron, beating severely. They were known for their aggressions. And even the Caesars that time, they were calling themselves gods, and they were asking people to worship them. They were asking for obedience, which in fact, only that God who said, I can reveal the picture, is pretend to have this worship. Like I said, Rome was the longest from all those kingdoms, but Rome also have to go. After the fourth, they also have to go. In fact, Rome did not disappear completely because the image, the king saw, he said, the iron will continue, but it will be mixed up with clay. When you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. The Roman kingdom will be divided. And that's what happened. It was divided. We are right now sitting in a territory which some years ago was still part of Roman Empire. Ruling by Roman Empire. Even today, our mentality is still ruling by Roman philosophy. Go to Salzburg, you will see the footprints in the buildings, in the places in the history that the Romans were the one ruling here. It was divided in many nations. The Bible said it. It will not last. It will be divided. The Bible said it years ahead, and it happened. It happened. But you know, when we come to the feet, if we think that's the end, I don't believe. Because there is more and more prophetic interpretation in that dream than just to tell you the past. If that's just to tell you the past, we will not come here. And like I said, we will not give you these flyers just to tell you history. You can get it also at the university. But what we are doing here, you cannot get it at the university. You can only get it here. And here is wonderful. Well, for those of us living in the 21st century, there is part of that dream, something also important for us. Something we can take with ourselves. Because Daniel said, as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men. But they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. They will not. So after the kingdom of Rome was divided in pieces, those ruling these pieces of kingdom try to adhere with each other through marriages. The king and the princes were getting married from all other kingdoms so that they can have peace among themselves, so that they can avoid wars, so that they can avoid violence. They want to have a peaceful world. That was the project. But Daniel said the dream thousands years ahead. He said, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. They will not. They will try, but they will not, he said. They might get together, but they will not stick to another. And they get together to have peace, but they did not. The history is confirming what the Bible said, and not the Bible confirming what the history said. The name Charlemagne is known. The name Charles V is known. Louis is known. They all try to unite Europe, to unite the Roman Empire. They did not make it. Napoleon Bonaparte, his name is known. He tried hardly to put the whole thing together. He tried hardly to unite nations in Europe. One world order. He wanted to have peace. He conquered the world from France. He did everything. He had been here in Austria. He had been in Germany. He had been in many places to just unite the whole world. At the end, he said, God Almighty has been too much for me. I could not work against him. That was a word of a mighty person who tried to avoid what the dream said. And at the end he said, God is too great. I cannot fight against him. Yes, Kaiser Wilhelm is known. But if you don't know that name, the second name, you know it. Hitler. He tried. He tried hard to unite Europe, to form Europe, and to take out all what is going, he think will bring trouble. He wants to take them out so that he can have a peaceful nation. And he was even ready to kill thousands of people so that he can reach his goal. Well, they will not adhere to one another. Till today, there is still fight. Greece is looking for money. The other nations are saying, we don't give you money. But they all are saying, we are in the European Union. We are one family. And one is starving, the other is saying, we are not giving you. They will try to adhere together, but they will not come together. What will happen the next? With obvious joy and convenience, great convenience, Daniel went ahead, standing in front of that king. When Daniel came in front of that king, I do believe he was small and the king was great and furious. But up to this point, when Daniel was telling the king his own dream and the interpretation, I believe up to this point, the king is becoming smaller. And Daniel was becoming greater. And he was listening as a child to Daniel, what that God revealed to him. And he was listening and listening and listening. And Daniel went through